Hello and welcome to the Naked Expat channel. Alright, picture this. You're abroad, let's say Tokyo. You meet someone incredible. The conversation is electric, there's a real spark, and you feel on top of the world. So, you deploy the same charm, the same wit that's always worked back home. You lean in, give a direct compliment about their looks, and suggest you two ditch the group for somewhere more private. And just like that, it's all over. The smile on their face tightens, their posture shifts, the warmth you felt moments ago vanishes. They politely excuse themselves and you're left standing there, utterly bewildered. What just happened? You may have just made a massive, irreversible mistake without even knowing it. You could be a perfect 10 back home, the life of the party, but in another country, you could be seen as rude, arrogant, and completely undateable. All within 5 minutes, and you won't have a clue why. This isn't rare, it's a silent tripwire that thousands of expats stumble over every single day. They think romance is a universal language, but it's not. It's a dialect, and if you don't learn to speak it, you're going to be talking to yourself for a lifetime. So, why is just be yourself terrible advice abroad? We've all heard the well-meaning but totally flawed advice, just be yourself. It's the cornerstone of Western self-help. This idea that your authentic self will always win the day. In a familiar setting where everyone understands your cultural shorthand, it's not the worst advice. But drop that same self into a foreign country and you might find it doesn't just get lost in translation, it actively works against you. Here's the truth most people miss. Your self isn't a universal constant. It's a product of your culture. The way you flirt, show respect, build trust, and express interest. All of it is learned. It's shaped by the shows you watched, your parents' relationship, and the unspoken rules of your society. What reads as confident and direct in the US can feel aggressive and arrogant in much of Asia. What's seen as charming in Latin America might come off as insecure in Scandinavia. The mistake is assuming your good intentions will shine through no matter what you do. You intend to show admiration with a direct compliment, but in a culture that values subtlety, it can feel like a blunt, superficial judgment. You think you're being honest by asking, so, what are we now? After just a few dates. But in a country where relationships evolve implicitly, your question can feel like a high-pressure interrogation. This highlights a major cultural divide, especially between Western and many Eastern societies. Western dating, particularly in the US, is often highly individualistic. It's about personal choice, direct communication, and shopping around for a match. The relationship centers on the two of you. Contrast that with many Asian cultures where dating is often approached from a more collectivist viewpoint. There, relationships are frequently seen as a path to a stable union that involves family and social harmony. The process is slower, more cautious, and relies on indirect cues and actions over bold declarations. To succeed, you don't need to become a different person. You need to develop cultural intelligence. It's about understanding that yourself is just one version of normal. It's about learning to observe, adapt, and show respect in a language your date will actually understand. Good intentions aren't enough. Before you can connect on a personal level, you have to connect on a cultural level. Ignoring this is like trying to unlock a door with the wrong key. You can jiggle it all you want, but you're never going to get inside. One of the biggest and most confusing hurdles in international dating is the canyon between communication styles. It's the difference between cultures that value direct, explicit language, and those that rely on subtlety, context, and reading the air. Getting this wrong is one of the fastest ways to kill a connection. Let's break down some completely opposite models. Firstly, the Western approach, commonly in the USA and the UK. In many Western countries, like the United States, dating operates on what's called a low-context communication model. That's a fancy way of saying meaning is conveyed through explicit words. If you're interested, you say so. If you want to see them again, you ask. Ask, ask, ask. Clarity is king. The talking stage is a well-known phase where things are ambiguous until someone finally starts the define the relationship or DTR talk. Consistent texting is often expected early as a sign of interest. In the UK, the approach is very similar but often softened with a layer of social caution and, let's be honest, usually alcohol. Pub culture is central to dating, using drinks to ease into more open conversation. While the British might be more reserved than the Americans at first, the goal is still to move through clear stages, just a bit more slowly. The core principle remains: say what you mean. Silence is often interpreted as disinterest. The second approach is Eastern. Now let's jump over to Japan, which operates on a high context communication model. Here, what's left unsaid is often more important than what is said. The cultural concept of kuki o yomo, which literally means reading the air, is a huge part of all social life, especially dating. It's the ability to pick up on subtle cues and understand the mood without needing direct instructions. Harmony is prized and confrontation is avoided. For a foreigner, this can be baffling. Over-flirting or forward compliments, especially about physical appearance, can come across as immature or rude. Instead, interest is shown through thoughtful actions, remembering a small detail from a past conversation, preparing a favourite snack, or walking somebody home. These quiet gestures carry enormous weight. The dating process itself is also more structured. It often starts with group dates, known as gukon, which reduce pressure and allow people to observe each other socially. If there's a spark, one-on-one dates might follow, but the relationship isn't official yet. Someone will literally say, "I like you, please go out with me," but until that happens, you're not a couple. While casual dating is becoming more common in big cities like Tokyo, the dominant cultural script, especially outside major urban hubs, still views relationships as a serious path forward to a potential future together. Now, imagine a Westerner in Japan. Their direct line, "You have beautiful eyes, let's get out of here," is likely to cause discomfort. It steamrolls the entire process of building trust. Conversely, a Japanese person might show interest through quiet attentiveness, which a Westerner could misread as shyness or a lack of interest, causing them to push even harder and create more pressure. So it's self-perpetuating. Now let's look at the Southeast Asian cultures like the Philippines, Thailand and Vietnam. In much of Southeast Asia, communication is also highly indirect, but with its own unique flavours. In countries like Thailand, the concept of saving face is paramount. This means avoiding public conflict, embarrassment, or any action that could make someone lose self-esteem. Similarly, in Vietnam and in the Philippines, maintaining harmony is key. Confrontation is avoided, so you must learn to read subtle signs. Public displays of affection are often off limits, especially in the early stages. However, in areas with many Western foreigners, these traditional rules can become more flexible. A more direct approach from a foreigner might be excused or even accepted, as they are often viewed as financially solvent and a potential path to economic stability. The key takeaway is to be patient, observe body language, and understand that no might be communicated through silence or a polite excuse, not a direct statement. Understanding this divide is a complete mindset shift. You have to stop listening only with your ears and start paying attention with your eyes. Watch their body language and note small gestures. In an indirect culture, the loudest messages are often the quietest ones. And as we know from several studies, 95% of communication is non-verbal, i.e., body language is very, very important. Now let's look at our first case study in France, the undate date. If you ask a French person on a date, you might get a confused look. The American concept of formal scheduled interview to vet a partner doesn't really exist in France. Romance in France evolves organically, often starting with a group of friends. You'll be invited to a dinner party or a night out, and the vibe is casual and very flirtatious. There's no 3-date rule or a formal what are we talk. The French approach is all about seduction and subtlety. It's witty banter, shared glances, and letting a connection build without labels. The relationship status is often defined not by conversation, but by a kiss. Once you've kissed, it's generally assumed you're exclusive. Asking, are we boyfriend and girlfriend now, would feel clumsy and unnecessary. The kiss already sealed the deal. You could actually essentially find yourself in an exclusive relationship by accident. Now, for the other end of the spectrum, India. Traditionally, dating here is tied directly to marriage. For centuries, arranged marriages were the norm, and while that's changing in cities, the cultural echo is powerful. Even in modern Indian dating, the expectation is often that the relationship is a serious step. Casual dating for fun is still frowned upon in many circles, and family involvement is huge. You're not just dating a person, you're being evaluated as a potential member of their family. Meeting the parents happens much earlier than in the West, and their approval is often make or break. Dating apps are popular, but they're often used by both young people and their parents to find suitable matches. The path is purposeful. Dating leads to meeting the family, engagement, then marriage. For a Westerner used to exploratory dating, this level of intention from day one can feel incredibly intense. The third case study, let's look at Southeast Asian courting. This is relevant to the Philippines, Vietnam and Thailand. In the Philippines, Vietnam and Thailand, the pace is generally slow, intentional and geared towards a serious relationship. Traditional courtship is a long process to prove pure intentions. Across these cultures, there is a strong emphasis on building a solid foundation. However, it's also true that in areas with a high concentration of Westerners, you'll find an increasing acceptance of faster, more direct dating styles. For some locals, a relationship with a foreigner is seen as a potential path to economic stability, which can sometimes cause traditional values about slow courtship go out the window. While rushing things is generally frowned upon, the context of dating a foreigner can change the rules. For a completely different model, let's look at Iceland. With its small population and deep-rooted gender equality, Icelandic dating is famously casual. There are no strict rituals. A formal dinner date can feel like far too much pressure. Instead, initial meetings are relaxed, like a coffee, a walk, or maybe a casual drink. One-night stands are very common and don't carry heavy stigma. In fact, it's not unusual for a relationship to develop after a physical encounter. Communication is direct, And because of the strong emphasis on gender equality, women are just as likely to initiate contact as men. There's no pressure to quickly label things, and people often settle down later in life. It's a pragmatic approach focused on genuine connection without the weight of formal courtship, standing in stark contrast to both the implicit romance of France and the purposeful progression of India. Trying to apply the French model of slow seduction in India would likely be seen as a lack of commitment. Applying the Indian model of serious intention in Iceland would probably scare somebody off. The pace of love is a dance, and you have to learn the local steps. Now let's look at gender roles and the bill. Who pays for what? There is no topic more filled with potential for awkwardness than gender roles and money. Who asks who out? Who pays? Who holds the door? The answers aren't just about politeness. They're tied to deep cultural values and masculinity, femininity, and respect. What's chivalry in one country is patronising in another. Let's look at the range of expectations. In Russia, traditional gender roles are often expected and celebrated. Men are expected to be the initiators, providers, and protectors. This is shown through a code of chivalry that's taken very seriously. A man leads the date, holds the door, helps with her coat, and, crucially, pays the entire bill. Offering to split it can be seen as questioning his ability to provide, which is a major offence. This expectation is also widespread in Southeast Asia. In Vietnam, Thailand, and the Philippines, men are traditionally seen as providers and are expected to pay for dates. This is particularly pronounced when a local is dating a Western foreigner who is often perceived as being wealthy. Paying is seen as a confirmation of their ability to provide not just for a date, but potentially for a family. While some modern women in big cities might offer to split, insisting on it could cause offence. The dynamic is clear. The man provides through generous acts, and the woman is to be wooed and respected. On the complete opposite end, you have countries like Iceland and its Scandinavian neighbours. Here, gender equality is a cornerstone of society. The idea that a man must always lead or pay is outdated. Women frequently make the first move. When it comes to paying, splitting the bill is the default. A man insisting on paying for everything could be seen as patronising, as if he's implying his date can't afford it or isn't his equal. The direct communication style also means there's less game playing. The roles are fluid and the expectations are centred on equality. Applying Russian-style chivalry here wouldn't just fail, it could be actively off-putting. In between these two poles are countries like the US, the UK, and France, where expectations are all over the place. This is where things get most confusing. In the US and the UK, there's a tug of war between tradition and modern equality. Some people still appreciate a man paying for the first date, while many others strongly prefer to split the bill. This leads to the infamous paying dance. That's that awkward negotiation over the cheque. There's no single right or wrong answer. France has its own unique hybrid. While society is modern, a certain old world galanterie or chivalry is still appreciated. A man is generally expected to pay on the first date, as talking about money is considered a bit vulgar. But this is seen as part of the art of seduction, not a rule about who provides. On later dates, the woman might pay, creating an unspoken balance. So what do? Observe, research, and when in doubt, ask politely. Something along the lines of, how do you feel about splitting this? Let your date share their preference without you making assumptions. A little humility goes a long way. If you're finding this breakdown of cultural nuances useful and you want to avoid these international dating blunders, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. We go deep on this kind of stuff every week to help you navigate the world with confidence. Also, drop a comment in the box below with the most surprising or confusing dating custom you've ever encountered abroad. I read every single comment. When you start dating someone, you might think it's just about the two of you. But in many parts of the world, a new relationship is more like a public announcement that invites opinions and involvement from a person's entire social circle. Understanding who holds influence, family or friends, is crucial. In many collectivist cultures, like those in India, the Philippines, Vietnam and Thailand, family members aren't just background details, they're central characters. Family approval isn't just a formality, it can be a non-negotiable requirement. In these Southeast Asian cultures, this dynamic can be intensified when a local is dating a foreigner. A foreign partner is sometimes viewed as a source of stability for the entire family. So their approval might not just be about a cultural fit, but also about securing a better future for everyone. This can mean that if the foreigner is perceived as a good provider, other traditional values might be relaxed. In Russia, there's even a saying, you have to marry her family first. When you're introduced, it's a test. You need to show respect, dress appropriately, listen more than you speak, and show interest in their traditions. Being dismissive of their family's opinion is a profound sign of disrespect. On the other side are highly individualistic societies, like in the US and the UK. Here, the relationship is mainly the business of the two people that are in it. Family involvement is low in the early stages, and parents are often the last to meet their new partner, usually a sign that things have gotten serious. The primary test is whether your partner likes you. While family opinions are nice to have, they rarely have veto power. The emphasis is on individual happiness. Sitting in the middle are cultures where the initial gatekeepers are friends. In France, as I mentioned earlier, you rarely meet a stranger at a bar. You meet through mutual friends at a dinner party or a social gathering. This group setting is low pressure and a screening process. Your ability to hold a witty conversation and fit into the group is basically subtly being assessed. Pass the friend test and one-on-one time might follow. Japan takes this a step further with group blind dates organised by friends. These events are specifically for single people to meet, allowing them to observe potential partners in a more neutral environment. It's like getting a character reference from their friends. Getting along with your date's social circle isn't just a bonus, it's often a fundamental part of courtship. Ignoring these gatekeepers is a huge mistake. If you're dating in the Philippines or Vietnam, be ready to charm the parents. In France, you need to win over the friends. In the US, you just need to focus on the person across from you. Every culture has its circle of trust. You need to know who's in it. A huge amount of international dating now starts online. Dating apps can be an amazing tool for meeting locals you'd never cross paths with otherwise, but that convenience comes with real risks, and being in a foreign country makes you more vulnerable. Your safety has to be your absolute non-negotiable priority. Let's be crystal clear about this. The excitement of a new place can cloud your judgment, so you need to set hard and fast rules you follow every single time. First, understand that whilst apps like Tinder or Bundle can be great, they're also playgrounds for scammers. The person on the other side of the screen might not be who they say they are. This doesn't mean you should avoid apps, this just means you have to be smart and defensive. Here's some crucial safety rules that you must follow. Before you even think about meeting, you have to verify that they are real. Insist on a quick video call. If they make excuses or refuse, that's a massive red flag. End of story. You can also do a reverse image search on their profile pictures to see if they're stolen from somebody else's profile. At first, keep all conversations inside the dating app. Scammers will immediately try to move you to another app like WhatsApp. Staying on the platform gives you an extra layer of protection as there's a record of your chat. Don't give out your phone number or social media until you've met in person or feel very comfortable with the person you're talking with. Only meet in public for the first few meetings. This is a big one. Your first few meetings must always be in a busy public place or popular cafe, a well-lit restaurant or well-lit bar. Never ever meet at their place, your hotel or any secluded location, because they could accuse you of rape, and what have you got on your side as proof? Always meet in public. Arrange your own transportation and meet them there. Be incredibly careful about what you share. Don't share your detailed travel itinerary if you're traveling around. Don't mention flight numbers or any financial information. Anyone pressing you for these details early on is a raging red flag. Before any date, tell a friend who you're meeting, where you're going and when you'll be back. Share your live location with them. It's also smart to have a bailout plan, like a pre-arranged call from a friend with a fake emergency that gives you an excuse to leave if you need to. And it's not just for girl safety, it's also for you guys. You might end up meeting somebody remotely by accident and end up getting mugged. And trust your gut. This is one of your most powerful safety tools. Human intuition is a remarkable thing. If something feels off, it probably is. If their story has holes in it, if they're too pushy, if they make you uncomfortable, listen to that feeling. You don't owe anyone any explanation. It is always okay to end the date early and leave. Your safety is more important than their feelings. Dating abroad should be exciting. By following these rules, you're not being paranoid, you're just being smart. You're creating a safety net that lets you explore new connections with confidence. So, we've travelled from the subtle dance of Tokyo to the family-centric courtships of India, from the assumed exclusivity of a French kiss to the directness of an Icelandic coffee. If there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's that romance is not a one-size-fits-all deal. The very charm that makes you a hit in your hometown might get you rejected abroad. Success in international dating isn't about changing who you are or learning a list of tricks. It's about expanding your awareness. It's about trading judgment for curiosity and recognizing that your normal is just one of the countless versions of normal that's out there. It's the humility to observe before you act and the respect to adapt your approach, not to manipulate, but to genuinely connect with someone in a way that makes them feel seen. It's a shift from here I am, be charmed by me, to here you are, let me understand you. So before you book your next flight or swipe right into a new country, remember this: the single most attractive quality you can have isn't your looks, your money, or your wit. It's your willingness to learn. That is the true universal language of connection. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe if you've not already done so. Until next time, thank you for watching. Enjoy.